So welcome to another episode of the Women Petpreneurs podcast with your host, Mary Oquendo. So I am doing an educator series because we have so many great educators in our industry, and I don't think that they are as well known as they should be. And what they offer is as well known as it should be. So hello, Denise. So thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. I love it.
Good. So Denise Heroux, let's start off with how you got involved in the pet industry.
I actually always wanted to be a groomer. And then in my junior and senior year, we were lucky enough, we have a career center and they taught some grooming. I hated every part of it. I did not like the rotation. I'm part of their success stories. They still talk about me to this day. But I learned a skill and I needed a job after school. And after I graduated, I found a really great place that was able to teach me while I got paid. And I mean, that was also a long, long time ago. So that was before corporates and stuff like that. So it was a really great opportunity.
Okay.
And yeah, I just have been doing it ever since.
All right. So how many years have you been in the pet industry now?
I'm going on 26.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, that does predate corporate because when I went into the workforce, it was Petco, and I was in class number 2 for them.
Mhm. Yeah, we didn't have, I remember when down the road, that was the biggest thing, that PetSmart was opening up and they were going to be offering grooming. And that was quite a few years in to when I was in my career. So yeah.
All right. So now you're an educator, correct?
I am, and I love every minute of it.
All right. So why did you want to move from grooming to education?
Well, I've always loved teaching. I actually taught at the Career Center an adult ed class for 14 years for basic dog grooming. It was maintaining at home. We did go through clippers and stuff like that, but really people learned why they paid groomers and they learned how to maintain their dogs. But I did that for 14 years and my businesses are successful because I train people up, and it's the next step to train business owners and to educate business owners and, give back what I was able to take from the years I got to experience trade shows and stuff.
Awesome. You know what? So I did not even realize grooming was an actual career until I was pissed off everybody here at my home. And there was the help wanted sign at Petco. And then all of a sudden there was this career. Right? And you know what? I've always had short-coated dogs and they got bathed occasionally. Kira, actually, she was my Shepherd Malamute who loved to take a shower. She loved, if you were in the shower, so was she.
I love it.
But now that, again, now I still only have short-coated dogs because I'm not a masochist, okay?
I tried that once. I had a standard poodle, never again. I don't know who said I was old enough and mature enough to own a dog I had to groom.
Oh, God, no. So, but here's the thing. I love it when they're clean.
Mhm.
Their coats are soft.
Yes.
They smell nice.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think educating pet owners is really a good deal. Because if I would have had a dog that required grooming, I wouldn't want necessarily to have a naked dog all the time. So educating me on how to do it and how great it is to have a clean, fresh smelling dog all the time didn't really happen until I had clean, fresh smelling dogs.
Correct. Well, I was saying I had a Shepherd mix growing up. We always have pitties or pitty mixes. And yeah, I didn't know what grooming was until I went to the Career Center. And the reason why I didn't like it was they can't charge anything to make money being a vocational school for the state. So we got the once a year farm old English sheepdogs that had wire wrapped around it and were completely pelted, or the biting cockers. Cockers were huge back then, right?
Yeah.
That was the era of cockers. And, we got biting Cocker Spaniels that weren't taken care of. And so it wasn't a fun rotation for me, but I learned a skill and I didn't even know it existed until then.
Yeah, you know what? I was talking to somebody else the other day, and now, okay, I'm in my 60s, but when I was in high school and had a conversation with my guidance counselor, there was like three options for me. Okay. I could be a nurse, I could be a teacher, I could be a housewife. Those were my three options. Yeah, I know,
Oh,
right?
that's sad.
Yeah, but we've come a long way.
We
But
have, yes.
anything other than that wasn't even like brought to my attention. I had no idea grooming could have been a career,
Mhm.
or hairdressing, or anything else that I could have done. But you know what? So not even a doctor, nurse, okay, and that's no shade. It is just they didn't think that I would be able to go to medical school.
Right.
Okay, a teacher or a housewife.
We've come a long way.
We've come a long way.
I mean, everyone who goes to the career center wants to be a vet. That's what I wanted to be. And, I had a job experience at 15. This was before even registered vet techs were a big, huge thing, at least in the state of Ohio. I have no clue about anywhere else, but they didn't exist. Our colleges weren't even teaching it at the time. So I got in ground floor at like 15. I was 15 when I started working at the vet, and I was able to give like vaccines. It's crazy. Anyways, I learned really fast. I did not want to be a part of the vet industry.
Yeah, and I
Really
did want, you know what? I volunteered at a vet office because I wanted to be a veterinarian as well too. I'm really glad that's not where I ended up, because I think I would have a really hard time with that.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. So I think I will not cut out I'm not cut out for that. Let's just leave it at that. Um, but again, before I dropped, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans for that. Um, and I don't know about today, but at the time when I was in college, veterinarian college is harder to get into than medical school.
Yep. Yep.
So, anywho, back to topic.
Yes. Back to grooming.
Back, back to education.
Education.
So you decided to make the leap and go into education, correct?
Mhm.
How was that decision for you? Was it scary? Was
It
it?
was. So I'm such a big thinker, and I always have these nagging things and thoughts, right? Like all these ideas. And for 1 or 2 years, for actually, I think it was when I contacted you. I think I told you it was like a year or two. I can't even remember. It's probably about 2 years. And I kept coming back to this one topic of growing your own groomers. And that's one of the reasons why the businesses are so successful, is because I'm really good at training people up. And I know that even at that time, there wasn't a shortage like is now, or people retiring and not going into the field. It wasn't as bad when I contacted you, but it was starting to get rough to find groomers. Anyways, so fast forward, I contacted you because I knew you were starting to do coaching, and
Here's the thing for our listeners.
yeah.
Denise, Denise is the one that pushed me to create that program. All right, because that was like in the back of my mind. You know what? I like to train the next generation of groomers, because of educators, because I am not going to be doing this forever. Okay. At some point, I'm going to say, you know what? This has been a great ride. You guys are awesome, but I got a garden that needs my attention.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Very much. Well, and even then, it's funny because just like my grooming career, my speaking career, you steered me towards employees, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. I think I said that a few times. Like, no, I want to do once. I'll do the employee thing afterwards. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, well, I guess I have a niche for it, and I'm glad you did. So I appreciate that push in that direction. And then yeah, you had mentioned about speaking and reaching out to Barkley, and they were looking for speakers for Hershey. And I'm a jump in it person. I'll say yes and then figure out how to make it work afterwards. And yeah, and that's pretty much how that all went down.
Right.
Having good content.
No, your content is great. And I just want to say there's a lot of time and effort goes into creating any program, whether it's a 1 hour thing or a 2 hour thing or a 10 hour thing or a 3 week thing. There's a lot that goes into it. And so there's dedication, and it is a whole new skill. But there's like that old saying, and I don't actually really agree with it, but there's an old saying: those that can do, those that can't teach.
Mhm.
And I think there's such a misconception around that particular topic. All right. That quote, right? Because if you can do it, okay, and you're doing it, doesn't mean you can actually teach it, because you may not know how to teach.
Correct. It takes a lot. I mean, so the recent summit you just had, right? Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how much go into it. I was very ambitious when I came up with that topic, by the way, for you. I made a topic list and I sent it out to everybody, and I'm just letting people pick. And if I have it done, great. If I don't, I'll come up with it. When I read that title, I'm like, oh, and I started working on it. That was 38 slides. And I'm like, okay, but reading how fast and where I can get away with not putting as much information has saved me a lot when I'm speaking. So even that skill of knowing how to read a room, right? It's hard when you're doing a webinar, but if you're speaking, but knowing how far your content will go and how much to put into it.
Yeah. And you only really know it by doing it.
Yep.
It's just, sometimes I feel like the mama bird. I'm just pushing you out of the nest.
Yep. Oh, you did. And of course, then Hershey,
there's hard rocks down at the bottom, so you better fly.
Well, what was it? It was, you told me to put together 4 1-hour topics that they could choose from. And they decided to have all 4 or 3 of the 4 in a 2-hour seminar, first time at Hershey. That was, yep, sure, okay, fine, whatever. And then afterwards I freaked out. And what's really funny though is, how long did that take me, guys? That took me 4 months to do. And now a 1-hour seminar I could do in about a week with, working on it after work and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just like grooming. I mean, I remember the first Gordon setter I had. He was a retired show dog. And so he was just basically a hairy lab in for a bath.
Right.
Basically all that was. Okay. He was retired, and boy, that dog played me like a newbie I was. He knew that I was a new groomer. Let's just leave it at that. That dog took me 5 hours to groom, Denise.
Oh my gosh.
5. Okay. And this is when we had cage dryers. Okay.
Right.
But 5 hours to dry, because, Dad thought maybe he should still be hand dried. And my mentor was like, yeah, he's just gonna, the 2 of them sat in the back of the room. They were laughing the entire time. And then Beth would come over and Taz would just like behave because, Beth's in charge.
Right.
And the 3 of them, I'm sure that dog got extra biscuits when he got home. Okay. And the fact that I didn't quit, okay, though I wanted to, because at one point I was like, screw this. I am going to, this has been nice, but I'll see you around.
Yep.
Not if I see you first.
Exactly.
But if I was to do that dog today, okay, and basically a large labish with some minor stuff thrown in there, that dog shouldn't take me more than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right?
I just had a conversation with one of my employees, and it's hard. So to anyone who's listening who doesn't really know, I have 29 employees, and I have all different skill levels, and I'm not at all my locations all the time, obviously. And, I'm busy doing the traveling with the Barkley and the speaking and WPA and stuff. And she was having some issues, and we were talking, and I've really never really sat down and talked to her as extensively on a personal level. But one of the things that I told her is, when it comes to the business, I'm like, kid, I am learning just like you every day I walk in here.
Yeah.
I don't, everyone thinks I have my stuff together, and I don't. I'm like you guys, learning how to groom. I'm learning how to navigate a business of this size, and speaking and teaching, and you're learning to navigate all those different projects. I'm like, I am no better or different than you walking through these doors just because I own it and I'm the boss at the end of the day.
Right. So you are, and you know what? And really, it starts with putting yourself out there. All
Mhm.
right. So, do you remember the very first class you taught?
Yes, it was
Okay.
her. Of course I did.
Right,
It was the
because we all do. All right.
yeah.
Every single one of us. Not necessarily remember the fourth, the fifth, the 30th, the 400. We remember that first class we taught because
Oh,
it
I
was
was
the
so
most
sick to my.
difficult.
Oh, it was the first time I ever traveled by myself, driving that far by myself. I was so sick, 5.5 hour drive. I was sick to my stomach the whole way there because I spoke Thursday evening and I was getting in 2 hours before I spoke. So I'm like, okay. So I'm actually really happy it worked out that way, because then I wasn't spending the whole weekend being worried about it. And I hadn't been to Hershey in years. So this was like a huge, not only am I speaking, I haven't been there in forever. I have new friends. It was a whole thing. But heck yeah, I remember that. I got in and I was like crying. I was sobbing. I was going through my presentation, just sobbing, like, who do I think I am? I can't do this. Why am I here? What if I suck? This is 2 hours, right? 2 hours. I'm like, how am I going to speak for 2 hours? And yeah, I had great support though. Chrissy Newmeyer Smith came in. I randomly posted on, I don't know, there was a Facebook page for speakers, and I'm like, I'm so nervous. And she stopped in, and then I find out, and I even noticed her sneak in at the very end. Jennifer Bishop Jenkins was there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's like, you did so well, and I'm like, thank you. It was, oh yeah, I remember my first time. But yes, there was nerves. Yes.
All right. And I think like anything, right? So we all know the groomers that we network with, groomers that we consider colleagues, and groomers that they consider us competition.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a difference in them. Okay.
Right.
So those that view you as competition, they don't really have anything to offer you.
Mm-mm.
They don't.
No.
They're more concerned with making sure they're doing better than you. They have no desire to make grooming overall in the area better.
Right.
So when you look at people like that, their opinion doesn't matter. You
Mm-mm.
don't waste your time, because they're not your support system.
Mm-hmm.
The others that are your support system, usually colleagues who come into your classroom just to say, you know what, that was a great presentation. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I learned a lot. You did wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that you can call and say, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. They just asked me if I would do this. What the hell is this topic? I don't even know what this topic is about. I can't teach about this topic. And then to talk you down and then help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think, like anything, there's that in this as the speaking part. There's the people who really want to see you share your knowledge with the other people in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
because you are now responsible for the next generation.
I know, and that's so cool. It's scary, but cool at the same time.
Yeah, it is. All right.
Mhm.
So those are the ones that you surround yourself with. All right.
Yes.
And it's honestly and truly why I absolutely adore Suzeko.
Mm-hmm.
I love that woman.
Yeah. Sue, I'm getting to know her. My mentor was Chris Berry. I absolutely loved her. I learned so much. She's the reason why my business is the way it is. So down to earth. I can randomly, it's so weird. I at one point had a question. I don't know. Well, actually, no, I think it was when I got the Berkeley nomination, and she commented on it because we're friends. She's like, I'm so proud watching your journey. I'm like, oh my God, Chris Berry's watching my journey. What?
Yeah, right.
I was like, you're right, fangirled. But it's really cool because at the end of the day, everyone is the same. We're all groomers, we're all peers. And I've reached out to her before asking her about certain things with speaking and, some of my projects and things. So it's really neat that she had that kind and compassion. And that's what I want to take with me as I teach too.
So what are your favorite topics to teach?
So I usually do more employee management. I love the employee management and I love helping business owners get their businesses in order. So policies, handbooks, procedures, those type of things. I will do the interview, like the hiring process and stuff. But I really think I think the grooming industry, business owner wise, tends to lack that foundational. I did, right? We come from a background that's toxic, and we just get out of that environment and we open up a business. And we don't know what we're doing, and we just sort of fumble, and you can either make it or break it, right? So just all of those things that if I would have had in place when I first opened, oh my goodness, I could have soared way faster.
Mm-hmm.
And
preparation is key. So one thing I will really thank my husband for freaking out when I told him I was leaving Petco and going and pointed to the van that I just put a deposit down on. That I did SCORE, and the local Chamber of Commerce did a bunch of business classes. So I did take the time to have some foundation, and I'm just gonna say some foundational information. I would have wished I had more. You know what? I would have wished that there was a business coach that I could have spent a little time with to do policies and procedures. Because I think of all the mistakes that I did in the very beginning, the biggest mistake was I did not have policies and procedures in the very beginning. I mean,
even if you're solo, you need to have them.
No, you absolutely need. Here, you will laugh. And if I save anybody anything, do not do multiple dog discounts for a household. Please don't do that. You will regret that. The only good thing that happened was I realized fairly quickly that once they complained about prices and they were going to go someplace else, oh, well, you can't come back. I'm no longer offering that anymore. I weeded them out fairly quickly. But even still, fairly quickly, probably took me more than a year to get them out of my schedule.
Yep. Figuring out your pricing. Pricing is another huge one. I mean, we're still trying. There's a whole different dynamic adding in like the support staff, and we're trying to find that sweet spot. And we need to make sure, obviously, livable wages. Anyways, long story. We have to keep tweaking our doodle prices. And what we're struggling with is the mass amounts of differences between doodles. So we do base it off of time, but when you have that many employees, but pricing, getting that done, don't undercut people when you first open up, right? You don't want to be the person who's cheaper in the area. You don't want to have to try and raise prices significantly when you realize you're not going to. Stuff like that is so important, right? Like the discounts.
Yeah. Please, it's just what I could still think, man, that was a really stupid mistake I made back then. But you know what? I really didn't have somebody within the pet industry to guide me. And I think that's kind of key too.
It is. So when I was doing seminars, or I still do the education side, but when I first started going to trade shows and stuff, and doing the continuing education, it was Chris Berry or Brett Wilson. That was it. Those were the first two people. Joey Villani. I like Joey Villani. I did one of his classes. His was phenomenal. There wasn't real strong business entities. And I always struggled with that when I was opening up my business and looking for direction on the business side, because our industry is different. Everyone wants to classify us as cosmetology, which we're not. And it was really, and being a service industry, it was hard for me to find anything that I could relate to while I was trying to research a lot of this stuff. And then trade shows, I only went to one a year, right? I mean, I could afford to do one a year. But no, they were the first driving forces that were very business oriented and professional. That's what drew me to them. Professional.
Good. All right. So, I mean, as speakers, we tend to go to more than one trade show a year.
Yes.
Right. And I'm always amazed at the regional differences between a trade show.
Yes. I was, this was the first year I went to Pasadena.
I know.
I was cool. Like, well, I went a long time ago but to speak there. This was the first time. And that demographic, so different than going a few weeks later over to Jersey.
Yep.
Or Atlanta, you know, even those were all the three that were close. It's so neat to see demographic wise too.
All right. So if somebody wants to hear you, listen to you, learn from you, how do they do that? Let's start with the trade shows. Where will you be this year?
Let's see. Pet Quest, All American, Hershey, Super Zoo. There's something I'm missing in there. Hershey, Super Zoo, Pet Pro Classic, and I think Fits so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a travel schedule. It's a travel schedule.
I don't say anything more about how much traveling I do because I was sitting at Atlanta Pet Fair in 2020 thinking to myself, damn, I'm traveling a lot. Maybe I ought to cut back. And then the next thing I know, the Chris Berry is coming around telling everybody we're closing up a day early. Pack up home. Yeah. So I'm like, but I only have 2 more trade shows for this year.
Okay.
That's Super Zoo and Hershey. Those are my last 2 for the year.
I'm enjoying it. I'm actually, so I took this year to really get a feel for it. You know, last year I did 3 or 4. And I have your online summit too in September.
We'll get to that in a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
Let's do the trade shows first.
Okay. Trade shows. So last year I wanted to sort of, so Hershey was 2021. And then last year I wanted to sort of just dabble a little bit more. So it was Pet Quest, All American, and Hershey. Oh, and then New England. I did toss in New England in there. And it was for me to see if it was going to be something I'd want to pursue. And I loved it. I love meeting people. So that's why I upped the ante this year. And I put myself out there actually, like WPA, you know how it goes. You have to apply and stuff like that if you're going to try and get your foot in the door. And so that was a whole new learning experience. And then from that, this year, Pet Pro Classic, Scott was actually at Pasadena, and he's the one who came up to me because I had sent in my speaker 1 sheet for Pet Pro Classic, and he had it printed out and he said, I wanted to talk to you. And that was such an amazing feeling.
Yeah. So let's talk about that real quick. So what is a speaker 1 sheet? All right. Something that sometimes is a little overlooked. Okay. And it's a professional way to reach those who are scheduling seminars. And it contains your headshot, your bio, the classes that you teach, a title and a brief description on it, how long they are, and how do they get in hold of you. And it's a professional looking document. And honestly, it sets you apart.
Yeah. I had no problem sending it in. I said, here's a list of my topics and here's my speaker 1 sheet. Contact me if you're interested.
Yeah, really very simple.
And to even know that I was speaking, so then you add that into, he knew I was a speaker at Pasadena, you know, like at Groom Expo West. So the fact that he already had all of his homework beforehand was just really neat. To just that experience, that me putting myself out there and doing the scary, that, you know, that's what it paid off. So.
All right. So now let's talk about some online options for people.
Yes.
Okay. So this is, you're doing the which one are you doing? Fall Business Summit, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're going to be doing some online classes with me for the Fall Business Summit. I believe I got the date set on that for September.
Yes.
Okay. And as someone who does online, positive educational training, yada, 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 Denise is a great speaker. So there's people I like to use and reuse. And the reason is, A, you're on time.
Thanks.
B, you're prepared well. You're well prepared. All right. So your workshops are worth listening to, even if you think you know it all. Like, yeah. I've had employees for 40 years. I'm good. Yeah. It's not going to hurt to learn something new.
Mm-mm. Oh, and especially employees, right?
Especially employees.
Yes.
And you also have a fairly large program.
Yes. So the methodical approach to hiring.
Yeah.
So that is a 6-session course, 5 or 6 sessions. I can't remember offhand now. 5 or 6 sessions that goes over the whole hiring process. So it gets your ducks in a row for your foundational work, how to market to potential employees, as far as your, sorry, if that's, sorry, someone was printing. It helps market to your potential employees as far as in today's market, right? Job interviews and job ads, where to do it, and gets all of that stuff together so you're prepared. And once you get all that stuff together, it's so much easier to go ahead and just sort of revamp them. I made the comment that it's not, you build your computer program and then you add updates as you go.
Okay. So, and I know that program lives on positiveed.com.
Yes.
So if they want to buy that program, how do they do that?
They go on to positiveed.com and look for the Ambitious Groomer. If you click on that, I have actually 2. I have a shortened version, which was my first 2-hour Hershey seminar. You're ready to hire, now what? And then there's the methodical approach to hiring.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you click on there.
So where do you see yourself in a couple of years? Where would you like to be in as far as educating groomers are? Where would you like to be in a couple of years?
I actually want to branch out from the grooming and go more into, well, because my topics are employees and business related, I can branch out a little bit easier and not necessarily be boxed into just grooming and dogs and stuff, or cats or rabbits. But I actually want to start hitting more of the pet industry, the professionals. So yeah, I want to make it more a full-time versus, a part-time currently.
All right. Do you think you can go full-time teaching?
I would love to. I can make it work somehow. What did we do? We say yes, and then we figure it out later.
We say yes, and then we figure out how we're going to make that happen.
Exactly.
Okay. So good for you. All right. So the next show, let's see, this is June. This is going to go probably more like towards the end of June. When is Pet Quest?
Pet Quest is the second to last weekend in June. It'll be the 22nd through the 25th, I think.
All right. So maybe this will air before that. Maybe it won't. All right. So for those who are listening, and let's just say Pet Quest is long gone.
Yes.
What's the next show after Pet Quest?
All American.
Okay. And that's crazy because All American, and then a couple of days later is Super Zoo.
Yeah. So it's back to back, and then same. Well, yeah, that's how it's going to be for Pet Pro Classic in October too. So yeah, it's going to be a schedule.
Yeah. Have fun.
Yeah. Well, and of course I'm on Sunday, and I usually drive to Chicago because my family lives out there. So I like to go visit. So I'll drive and then hop on a plane on Tuesday.
All right. So what day are you teaching at Super Zoo?
Wednesday. Luckily, it's one day, so it's Wednesday. Mm-hmm.
Okay. At least you get a day in there.
Yes.
I know a lot of people who are literally going to the airport in Chicago and just flying right over to Las Vegas.
I've thought about it. I really did. But when I knew I was Wednesday and none of my staff is going, I'm like, okay, I can come home at least for a little bit and then hop on a plane the next day.
Okay. So I will see you at Super Zoo. You might be a little exhausted, but I'll see you at Super Zoo.
Yes.
Okay. So, Denise, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to be here.
Well, thanks for asking me and having me. I love doing these.
I love doing these too. So thank you for taking time out of your day, and everybody join us next week when I interview someone else making a difference in the pet industry.